In section of was essentially Unit 7, talking about similar figures. Today what we're going to talk about is what is a ratio, what are extended ratios, and then what is a proportion, and being able to solve these different types of problems. A little bit of algebra review today, actually a lot of algebra review, but it's important that we're able to write ratios and solve proportions when we start talking about similar figures, and get more into that tomorrow, where we have to do a comparison about sides, and see if the sides are proportional. So in order to do that, we should probably figure out what these different things are, or just a reminder of what these different things are. So what is a ratio? Notes are right there. A ratio is a comparison. So we're going to put comparison here. It's a comparison of two or more quantities. Okay, so you're going to compare two things together. And there are different ways that we represent a ratio. Probably the most common way that you guys see a ratio represented is just in the form A over B. It's a fraction. That's what a ratio is. It's just a fraction. Okay. Another way that it can be written is sometimes you'll see A semicolon B, or something like A to B. The most common one that we're going to use, and the one that we'll use 99% of the time, is we're going to represent it as a fraction. That's what we're used to. One of the things you do have to do with these, with all ratios, is you do need to make sure that ratios are simplified. So ratios can be simplified. So you can take your fraction and you can reduce your fraction into its lowest form. Okay, let's put the phones away, please. So an example of some ratios. The music store has 40 trumpets, 39 clarinets, 24 violins, 51 flutes, and 16 trombones in stock. Write each ratio in its simplest form. So it's saying write trumpets to violins in its simplest form. So, there are 40 trumpets and there are 24 violins. So the ratio of trumpets to violins is 40 over 24. Take that right there. There you go. Now that can be simplified. 8 goes into both of these things. So I can divide both 24 and 40 by 8, and then I get a ratio of 5 to 3. It simply means that we have 5 trumpets to every 3 violins. So we have more trumpets than violins. Okay. Flutes to clarinets. If we look at the number of flutes we have 51 flutes, and we have 39 clarinets. Again, that's the ratio. If you notice it can be simplified, it can be. I can divide both of these by 3. If I divide both of these by 3, you end up with 17 over 13 as our simplified ratio. Okay. Why don't you go ahead and write the simplified ratios for 3 and 4. Trumpets to trombones and violins to total instruments. I'll add it up. I'll add the total instruments up for you, so you have that number by the time you get to it. There's 170 total instruments. Yep. Yep. Just to write it a different way, the number of trombones is 16. The number of trumpets is 40. You can divide both of those by 8. 8 goes into 16 twice and into 45 times. So we have the ratio 2 to 5. We have 2 trombones for every 5 trumpets. And then violins to total. There are 24 violins to 170 total. Again, this can be reduced, divide by 2. It'd be 12 to 85. And though I like you to reduce it, I'm not going to get overly hung up if you don't. Okay. So that's a ratio. It's just a comparison between two things. Number of snow days number of school days you have, the number of days teachers have to be here. Okay, the number of days you've been here to the number of days you haven't been here. You can write ratios for all of these things, and you should always simplify them as much as you can. So that's what a ratio is. Extended ratios now. So an extended ratio is a comparison. Of 3 or more. Quantities. And is oftentimes written in the form A, B, C. The number of violins to the number of trumpets to the number of total. Something like that. A lot of times when we're using extended ratios, we're going to use the extended ratios for angles and side measurements of a triangle. Okay, but it's just a comparison between 3 or more. So if we look at a couple of examples of this. Number 5 says, the ratio of 2 complementary angles is 3 to 7. So it's telling us that it's a ratio, but we want to find the measurements of the angles. So it's not necessarily an extended ratio, it's just a ratio. But it tells us the ratio of 2 complementary angles is 3 to 7, and we want to find the measure of both angles. Well, with this, you need to know a couple terms. You need to know what complementary means. What's complementary means? Anybody remember? That's congruent. Complementary means they add up to 180, or add up to 90. So complementary means they add to 90 degrees. So it's telling us that these two angles have ratios of 3 to 7. So we don't know the measure of the angles. We just know that this one is 3 times normal and this is 7 times normal. So to do this question, what we're going to do is we're just going to take our ratios and we're going to put an x after it. And the measure of that angle and the measure of that angle have to be complementary. Okay, so 3x plus 7x has to be 90. They have ratios of 3 to 7. That x value is going to be the same. Now we have to solve that x value. So 3x plus 7x is 10x. So 10x is equal to 90. Divide by 10. X is equal to 9. Okay, so that's my x value. But we want to find the measure of the angles. Well, our first angle is 3x. We know what x is. We know x is 9. So the first angle measures 27 degrees. We know the second angle is 7x. X is 9. So we're going to take 7 times 9 and get 63 degrees. So those are the measures of our two angles. It's 27 to 63. So if I wrote 27 over 63 as a ratio and reduced it, I'm going to get 3/7. That's what it's going to reduce down to. This is allowing us to do is it's saying it's complementary, so we know they have to add up to 90. Okay, so now we go to a different one. Now, number 6 says the ratio of two supplementary angles is 4 to 1. Find the measure of both angles. What does supplementary mean? Complementary is 90. Supplementary is 180. So if we take two things are supplementary to each other, they have to add up to 180. So if we're going to find the measures of these, again, we don't know our x values, so we're going to go 4x, which is my first ratio, plus my second ratio, which is 1x. We know when they're added together, they have to be 180 because they're supplementary to each other. 4x plus 1x is 5x. It gives us 180. We divide both sides by 5. We get x is equal to 36. That's what I'm saying. So our first angle's ratio was 4x. We know the x value is 36 now, so I can plug it in there. Four times 36 is 144. So that's the measure of our first angle. Our second angle was just x, so that's 36. So there's the measure of your two angles. So complementary means 90, supplementary means 180. So in those we had two ratios. Now we're going to extend it to 3 ratios with number 7. Number 7 says the ratio measures of the angles of a triangle. So we have this triangle. The ratio is 4 to 7 to 9. It says find the measures of the angles. So if we look at a picture of this, that angle is 4x, this angle is 7x, and this angle is 9x. That's their ratio. Pass. Make it fast. What do the interior angles of a triangle have to add up to? 180. So we're going to take 4x plus 7x plus 9x, and that's going to equal 180 degrees. Combine like terms, 4 plus 7 plus 9, that's 20. So 20x equals 180. Divide by 20. We get x is equal to 9. So there's my x value. But my ratios were 4x, 7x, and 9x. Our x value is 9, so that's going to be 4 times 9. 4 times 9 is 36. 7x is going to be 7 times 9. 7 times 9 is not 9. 63. Then 9x is 9 times 9, which is 81. So there are the measure of my three angles that have a ratio of 4, 7, and 9. Any questions with that one? All right, now try number 8 on your own. It says the ratio of the measures of a triangle, the ratio of the measures of the angles in a triangle is 11 to 2 to 5. It says find the measure of the largest angle. You do it the same way. You just don't have to plug it into all of them. You only need to plug it into the one that's going to be the biggest one. Okay, so do it a lot like we did 7, but now you have to have 11, 2, and 5. Okay? If you need a calculator, there's calculators up there to kind of help you with the math part of that if you need it. All right, let's take a look at it quick. The ratio of the measures of the angles is 11 to 2 to 5. So we're going to go 11x plus 2x plus 5x is equal to 180. 11 plus 2 is 13, so 18. 18x equals 180. Divide by 18. We get x is equal to 10. Now it says find the measure of the largest angle. Well, our largest is going to be obviously 11. So take 11 times 10 is 110. That's our solution. Questions with that one? All right, let's turn the page. We're just going to do These two more questions today. We'll talk proportions tomorrow. We'll do proportions tomorrow. The ratio of the measures of the sides of a triangle are 2, 8, and 9. If the perimeter of the triangle is 76 inches, find the length of each. Okay, so perimeter, another key word in there. Perimeter, what does that mean? If I have a triangle sitting here, what's the perimeter mean? The sum of all the sides? The distance around? It's the sum of all the sides. So I know that this is 2x, this is 8x, and this is 9x. Together, they have to add up to 76. So 2x plus 8x plus 9x has to equal 76. We'll do this one together. That's 19x's equals 76. Divide by 19. You get x is equal to 4. 76 divided by 19 is 4. Now the directions say find each. So our first one is 2x. So that's 2 times 4. 2 times 4 is 8. Our next one is 8x. So 8 times 4 is 32. And the last one is 9x. 9 times 4, which is 36. And if I took this 8, 32, and 36 and added them together, I should get 76. And I do. Okay. All right, last one we'll do together. Actually, I'm going to have you do this one. 3 sides to a triangle. The perimeter is 217. But now this time it wants just the shortest side. Just the shortest side. Give you about 2 minutes. It's 12:43. That makes 12:45. All right. So we've got 10, 15, and 6. So we're going to go 10x plus 15x plus 6x. Perimeter is 217. Combine like terms, 10 plus 15 plus 6 is 31. So we've got 31 x's is 217. Divide by 31. X is equal to 7. Did we do okay? That's our x value. Now the direction said find the length of the shortest one. Well, 6 is the smallest. So we're going to find the length of 6x. We know that x is equal to 7. 7 times 6 is 42. And if you want to label it 42 inches, you certainly can label it 42 inches, but you don't have to. Okay. So what I'm going to have you look at today, your assignments. We're going to try to do proportions today, but I think that's just too much. So we're going to stop at this point. Kind of our goal was to be able to write ratios today. Remember, when you do ratios, simplify them. And then talk about the comparison and using extended ratios for angles and side measures. Okay? Any questions before you get what you're going to do tonight?